Welcome back to Northern Tales, where silence is not the end of a woman's story, and pain, when witnessed, begins to loosen its grip. In part 3, Binta collapsed. Zainab caught her, TBHIV hunger, but also hope. For the first time, Binta chose to live, and Zainab chose to stay. Now in part 4, the walls fall completely, and a woman who's been silent for years opens the door to a truth even she had buried. This is Dr. Zainab and Binta, Part 4, The Story She Never Told. New episodes drop every Thursday and Sunday. If this story touches you, please like, comment, and subscribe. You never know who might need these words today. 2 weeks passed. Zainab waited every day, eyes lingering on the waiting bench just outside her consultation room. But Binta didn't come. She thought about calling the hospital where she had been treated, thought about asking one of the community health workers to check the address she'd written, but something told her to wait. And then, one quiet Thursday, she walked in. Zainab was just finishing with a patient when she heard the familiar voice. Dr. Oyembo. She looked up, and there she was, Binta, dressed in a plain ankle-length gown with short sleeves, a light scarf tied loosely over her head. Her face was tired, her eyes distant, but her cheeks, slightly fuller, her skin, no longer ashy, her presence, steady. Zainab stood, trying not to show her relief. You came. Binta nodded. No smile, just sat quietly in the chair opposite. Zainab glanced through her notes and asked her to step on the weighing scale. She recorded the new number and raised her brow. You've added weight. Binta shrugged. I'm eating. I'm taking the meds. Happy now? Zainab nodded slowly, still watching her. There was something different. And then Binta looked up at her, eyes tired, voice low. Oyinbo, doctor. Buy me Coke. A pause. Buy me something to eat. Zainab's heart jumped. She blinked back a grin. Today's your lucky day. She reached into her drawer and pulled out the sandwich she had packed that morning, egg and sardine and soft bread still wrapped in foil. She had brought it to eat later, but she never did, not in that place. Not with so many eyes around her, with hunger staring from every corner. Today, she wouldn't eat it either. She waved at the clinic cleaner standing by the door. Auntie Halima, a beg, help me buy Coke. Real one, full bottle. The older woman smiled and left. Binta unwrapped the sandwich slowly, almost reverently, and took a bite. They sat in silence. Zainab didn't speak. She watched her eat. When the Coke arrived, Binta took long sips between bites, eyes fixed on the window. Then, just above a whisper, this is not how I expected my life to go. Zainab didn't interrupt. Another long pause. I thought I would be a different person. She turned away from the window. But that's a story for another day. Then she finished the sandwich, wiped her fingers on the foil wrapper, and stood up. She turned to Zainab and smiled faintly. Jazakallah khairan. Zainab blinked. She hadn't expected that. Binta caught her look and rolled her eyes. What? You think because I do what I do, I'm not a Muslim? You think I don't remember how to pray? And then they both laughed. The room felt lighter. As she walked out, she turned once more. Next time, add gala, too. Zainab was still smiling long after the door closed behind her. By the third month, Binta had become a quiet fixture in Dr. Zainab's days. She didn't come daily, but often enough that Zainab started coming prepared. An extra sandwich, bottled water, juice, sometimes a little fruit. If Binta came, they ate together. If she didn't, Zainab found someone else in need to give it to. But there was always a plate waiting, just in case. And every time Binta would eat in silence, sometimes offering a sarcastic joke, sometimes humming a half-remembered tune from childhood. Zainab didn't press. She simply shared space. Until that one afternoon. It was raining lightly outside. Zainab had brought a tub of rice and stew with plantain, still warm. They sat at her desk, as usual, and Binta ate slowly, staring out the same window like she always did. Then suddenly, without turning her head, she said, Doctor, do you know there was a day I tried to kill myself? Zainab's fork paused midair. A chill rippled down her spine. Her throat closed. The rice in her mouth tasted like chalk. She tried to swallow, but couldn't. Quickly, she reached for the serviette on her desk, held it to her mouth, and gently spat into it, wiping her lips. Binta didn't react. She kept eating, her face unreadable, her eyes fixed on something far away, a memory, a ghost, a version of herself. And then, between bites, her voice cracked open. My mother divorced when I was a baby. My father, he didn't want me, didn't want her either. She sipped some water and continued, softly. Married another man. He wasn't anybody important. He had a shop in Gariki, sold spare parts. He used to farm in our village, and when he found out my mother was divorced, he came with marriage in his mouth. She was tired, I think. She agreed. Zainab sat still, listening, not breathing too loudly, not interrupting. He brought us to the city, Abuja, a small shrug. We had one room. My mother did petty business, hawked vegetables, onions, anything. There was a pause. Binta's voice fell lower. They didn't send me to school. I learned how to read and write from hanging around the government primary school in Gariki every day. I helped my mother hawk moi moi. I didn't go to Islamia either. I didn't even know how to pray. She gave a bitter little laugh. But I learned about sex early. Zainab's eyes widened, but she said nothing. In one room, you don't get to pretend you're a child. You hear things. Another long silence. Later, my mother had a son, my brother. She didn't say more. She didn't have to. The way she wiped the oil from the corner of her lips. The way her hands trembled slightly. The way she looked at the half-empty plate like it reminded her of something she'd lost. Zainab wanted to reach for her hand, but she didn't. Not yet. Binta picked up the last bite of plantain and ate it quietly. Then she turned to Zainab and said, "Doctor, I'll tell you the rest another day. It's too heavy today." Zainab nodded, and Binta stood, dusted her hands, picked up her scarf, and left, leaving behind an untouched bottle of juice. It was the first time she had left something for Zainab. It had been several months since Binta told Zainab part of her story. She never brought it up again, not once. But she kept coming, more regularly now. And eventually, she stopped coming as a patient. Instead, she walked in one rainy morning, headscarf loosely wrapped, her hands tucked into her armpits like she was shielding herself from the world. She stood at the door to Zainab's consulting room and smiled that familiar crooked smile. "Doctor," she said, "do you think you can talk to that your Oga, the one that owns this place? Maybe tell him to give me a job, even if it's just cleaning the toilets?" Zainab looked up from her notes, startled but intrigued. "You want to work here?" Binta shrugged. "Well, since the whole world now knows I have HIV, business is not exactly booming, you know. My customers have gone into retirement." She laughed softly. A tired laugh, not bitter, almost like she was telling a joke that had lost its sting. Zainab smiled too. "Let me talk to him." By the following week, Binta was the newest staff member at the clinic, officially the cleaning lady. She showed up every morning by 7 a.m., with a mop, a head wrap, and a silence that was almost startling. Gone were the loud entrances, the gum-chewing swagger, the insults thrown like daggers. She did her work quietly, diligently, and slowly. Even matron Ndidi softened. One afternoon, as Binta disinfected the waiting room, Ndidi watched her from behind the reception desk and muttered to no one in particular, "Kai, people can change. I still can't believe this is that crazy girl who used to fight everyone and their ancestors. God is really working." Zainab heard it, smiled to herself, but said nothing. Binta was changing. Not into someone new, but someone she was always meant to be. She still kept mostly to herself, but her eyes were gentler now. She took her medication religiously. She sat in during staff breaks. Sometimes she even cracked jokes. Until one morning, it all came rushing back, like history dragging its feet back to the doorstep. A girl had stormed into the clinic, angry, loud, chewing gum, arguing with the receptionist. She was no older than 19, with a tired-looking weave and tight jeans. She wanted contraceptive pills. When the nurse explained that the clinic was out of pills but had condoms available, the girl exploded. "You people are mad! So because I don't have money to go to a big hospital, you want to give me nonsense?" She turned, knocked a chair over, and stormed out, hurling curses at everyone on her way. No one said a word. Binta had been standing near the hallway, holding a mop. She didn't move, didn't speak, just watched the girl leave. Then quietly she walked into Zainab's office and sat down without asking. Zainab closed her file and looked up. For a while, Binta didn't say anything. Then finally, she exhaled, like she had been holding her breath for a lifetime. "That was me," she said. "That girl, that used to be me." Zainab nodded. "I know." Binta looked out the window, as she always did. "Doctor, can I tell you the rest of my story now?" After the initial wave of truth passed between them, Binta's voice grew steadier. The story no longer trembled on her lips. It spilled. "After Mama died and my brother was taken away, it was just me and him," she said, her eyes fixed on a faded poster on the wall behind Zainab. "At first, he would come home early, bring me food, check on me. Then it started changing. He stayed longer at the shop. Sometimes he wouldn't come back at all, and when he did, he barely spoke. He stopped touching me. Just silence." She laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "I guess I grew too old to be interesting." Zainab said nothing. She had learned not to interrupt. Binta's story was like a slow river, carrying debris, truth, and sorrow in equal measure. "He started leaving me alone, and I started becoming naughty." She paused, as if testing the word, then nodded to herself. "Yes, naughty. That's what the neighbors said. I stayed out too long, laughed too loudly, played with the boys too much. But what else was I supposed to do?" Her eyes turned glassy. "Nobody asked where I went. Nobody cared if I came back. I started following some older girls in the compound. We would go to Woos Market, pretending we had errands. Sometimes we followed men who bought us snacks and drinks. We didn't even know we were being groomed." She smiled bitterly. "By the time I was 13, I had a sponsor. That's what we called them, sponsors. Men who gave you money if you stayed over. Not much, just enough to buy hair extensions, clothes, maybe even a new phone. You know how many girls are on that street, doctor? You'll be shocked." Zainab's hands tightened on the file in front of her. She felt sick. "I was already trained, you know. My body had learned how to respond. It wasn't hard. It was just something I did. Like washing plates, like cleaning the floor. That's how it felt." She looked at Zainab then, eyes sharp. "Don't pity me. That's not what I want. I just want someone to understand. I didn't choose this life. It was handed to me, piece by piece, until it was the only thing I had." Silence fell in the room. The hum of the clinic generator filled the air. Then Binta added softly, "Most of my life, I've been outside myself. Watching, like a movie, watching a girl who looks like me go through things, and wondering, when will it end?" Zainab swallowed hard. "And now?" she asked gently. Binta gave a small shrug. "Now I'm still watching, but at least someone's sitting beside me. That makes it easier." Binta's voice trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of everything she had carried, alone, for years. "I picked up a knife one day," she said, eyes fixed on the floor. "I was tired. I looked at my life and thought, maybe if I die, everything will stop. The pain, the shame, the hunger, even the thinking. I just wanted silence." Zainab didn't speak. She knew this moment wasn't about medicine. It was about witnessing. "But I couldn't do it," Binta continued. "I pressed the knife against my skin, but I couldn't go through with it. Then I remembered one sermon I heard long ago from an Islamic scholar in our neighborhood. He said, 'If you kill yourself, hellfire will be your eternal home.' And that thought froze me." She turned to Zainab, her eyes glossy. "Doctor, I don't pray. I don't fast. I don't know how to. I don't even know if I believe in anything anymore. I'm a Muslim by name, by family, but not by practice. So sometimes I ask myself, will Allah ever forgive someone like me? Zainab reached for her hand, gently holding it, allowing silence to speak for both of them. And that day, when you told me I had HIV and TB, Binta gave a small, bitter laugh. I didn't cry. You know why? Because I thought, finally, I will die. But this time, no one will say I did it to myself. No one will say I'm in hell because I killed myself. Maybe this is a better exit. Maybe Allah will have mercy on me. Maybe this way, I'll be forgiven. She took a deep breath and added quietly, but then you looked at me like I mattered. No one ever looked at me like that. She had survived rape, rejection, abandonment, and years of being unseen. But she survived. And today, she spoke. Not for pity, not for applause, but for the first time, to be understood. Thank you for watching part 4, The Story She Never Told. Next, in the final chapter, something remarkable begins to bloom, because sometimes the people we save turn out to save us too. Don't miss part 5, where love is redefined, dignity is reclaimed, and two women rise together. Until then, this is Northern Tales, where every woman's story matters.